Members of the J Area, welcome back to another episode of the J Area Wrestling Podcast. My name's Jose Ramos Jr., and there is a little bit of an event to talk about. This past weekend, we saw the second edition of this iterations of the WWE's Saturday Night's Main Event. And I'm going to tell you right now, this podcast episode is going to be kind of brief. We're just going to share our insights, share our thoughts on Saturday Night's Main Event. Of course, we have a bunch of live streams upcoming this week, as well as the Royal Rumble this upcoming weekend. But the name of the game, the topic at hand, Saturday Night's Main Event. It was a nice little retro show, a little bit of a throwback for a lot of the fans of the 80s, fans like myself who weren't able to see the Saturday Night's Main Event in its prime, but now getting a little bit of a treat. And I gotta say, after the first one, I was thoroughly entertained. We got to see Kevin versus Cody. We got to see a new United States Championship being introduced. But I will say that first Saturday Night's Main Event kind of left a little bit to be desired, at least for me. So upon learning that the second edition of the Saturday Night's Main Event lineup would be taking place this past weekend, I had a little bit more hope. You saw in last week's predictions video, we had predicted each matchup, and I thought that we were going to get at least one surprise. It's a primetime slot, NBC, Peacock, Saturday Night's Main Event. You would think something would happen. Of course, we know that Rhea Ripley was defending her title. Gunther was defending his title. Braun Breaker defending the IC Championship against Sheamus, who was still on that quest to win the Intercontinental title. So it had to make sense that at least one of them would change hands, right? Just to provide a little bit of a shock factor for those in attendance, maybe pop a rating on TV. But of course, we'll dive right into it. The night began with the Women's World Championship. Rhea Ripley recently having won the title on the Netflix debut of Monday Night Raw, but now she was tasked with defending it against the irresistible force, Nia Jax. I thought that these two had a pretty good matchup. A lot of people have been criticizing the presentation of Rhea Ripley as of late, kind of maybe a little bit of Super Cena-ish, but nonetheless, I thought it was a good match. I've always tried to praise Nia Jax. This last year has been a great year for Nia Jax. And Rhea Ripley, who wasn't really present due to a couple of injuries that she sustained. We know that Rhea Ripley successfully defended that title, and it begs the question of what's next for Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley, one of the biggest stars in the promotion, one of the biggest stars in just pro wrestling. Her ability to permeate through mainstream media has not gone unnoticed. She's one of the more engaging wrestlers online in terms of their presentation. Everywhere you look at Rhea Ripley and you immediately know star power. Rhea Ripley and her next challenger probably won't be revealed for quite some time. I think we might see that in the form of the Royal Rumble winner. And stay tuned, of course, throughout the week. We're going to have our Royal Rumble predictions video, so make sure to keep an eye out for that. But with Rhea Ripley having already gone through Liv Morgan, that was a feud that was going on for basically years on end. I mean, since their partnership had ended back in 2022, and upon her arrival in the Judgment Day, Rhea Ripley has been on an ascension from then on. So I'm very curious to see what's the next step in her story. Who will she be defending that world championship against? Could it be against the likes of a Becky Lynch, who they had feuded last year's WrestleMania? We know Becky Lynch is due for a return. Will it be someone from NXT, perhaps a call-up? I don't know. I mean, we wouldn't put that out of the realm, but at this point for Rhea Ripley, it would be very interesting to see what they put in her direction. As for Nia Jax, she'll be moving forward into the Royal Rumble matchup. I don't expect her to win. She recently held the Women's Championship over on SmackDown, already lost this matchup to Rhea Ripley. So I don't look for her to be the winner. She's probably going to be presented as one of those eliminations that's a huge pop for whoever throws her out of the ring. We talk about massive stars, both in the figurative and literal sense. But what about Jacob Fatu against Braun Strowman? Now that's a matchup there that I had a lot of intrigue towards. Not that much build, I will say, in the last couple months. But regardless, you get a King Kong versus a Godzilla-like matchup, and you know I'm already there. Jacob Fatu presented as a beast slayer. I mean, the way he dismantled Braun Strowman was impressive. Several hip attacks that that basically caused Braun Strowman to no longer be able to compete. The referee called for the bell. It was a stoppage. Saw a little bit of color there. And Braun Strowman looked demonstrated. It was a demonstration on the power and the ferocity of a Jacob Fatu. He's been known as the Samoan werewolf, apparently. The reports, if they're to be believed, we're going to start referring to him as the tribal werewolf. Gone are the days of Solo's bloodline. This is going to be Jacob's group between him, Tamatanga, Tangaloa. Jacob Fatu, if he's not in the Rumble, I'm going to be very surprised. Because I feel like the Royal Rumble is an opportunity to showcase your stars. Showcase the stars of today and the future, as well as maybe having a couple of the past as a way to honor them. If Jacob Fatu is not in there, I'm going to be quite shocked. I feel like he can go on a run like a 1994 Diesel, where he eliminated 7 guys. Like a Brock Lesnar in 2020, who eliminated 13 guys. Kane in 01. I could keep going with the other dominant performances within a Royal Rumble. Jacob Fatu is a force to be reckoned with. He will be a future champion in the WWE. And to defeat the likes of a Braun Strowman, who's won a Universal title, has been with the promotion for quite some time, is an established star, this does wonders for Jacob Fatu. What's next for him? We're going to have to wait and see. LA Knight, of course, has been feuding with Tama Tonga. Had that interaction with Braun Strowman as the two were going up against Jacob and Tama. Perhaps LA Knight is on the radar of Jacob Fatu following that blistering promo that he had on Friday night. Would I love to see it? You better believe it. You talk about championship aspirations. The matchup that I thought had the potential to steal the show, and for many did, was the Intercontinental Championship showdown between Sheamus and the champion Braun Breaker. The story, of course, Sheamus trying to win his first IC title, completing the Grand Slam Championship. This was a matchup that I thought we were going to see the surprise. I thought for sure Saturday night's main event was going to have some sort of a shock value, some sort of fan service to give people something to look forward to heading into the WrestleMania season. So I'm thinking we're going to pull the trigger on a Sheamus victory, but that wasn't the case. Sheamus, unfortunately, is not able to defeat Braun Breaker to earn the distinction of the Grand Slam champion. Rather, Braun Breaker successfully defends his championship, adding to the list of successful defenses against the likes of Sheamus, Ludwig Kaiser, and even both in the triple threat match at the Survivor Series. Braun Breaker surely on a run here. He, along with Jacob Fatu, I do think are future world champions. But I want to talk about Sheamus here for a moment and give him his flowers. Sheamus, upon his arrival in the WWE, it was in 2009. He was a member of the ECW roster. You guys remember that ECW? Not, of course, the Revolution, the Paul Heyman ECW, but the WWE's iteration of ECW. It was during a talent exchange where they were getting an influx of young talent being introduced to the main roster of Raw and SmackDown. Sheamus arrives on the scene in June 2009, but not before long, he would be promoted to Monday Night Raw, winning a battle royal that would earn him a WWE title matchup against John Cena. Of course, if you know, you know. It was TLC 2009. It was December, to be specific, where in a tables match, Sheamus defeats John Cena to win his first ever WWE Championship. It was a huge meteoric rise that would follow. Sheamus would go on to win the WWE title a few occasions. World Heavyweight Championship gold, the United States Championship, Tag Team gold with the likes of Cesaro, now known as Claudio Castagnoli over in All Elite Wrestling. King of the Ring wins, Money in the Bank, Royal Rumble. This guy has done it all with the exception of that IC championship. I look at a guy like Sheamus, and he has slowly creeped his way into one of the all-time great careers in the WWE. I think that the most appropriate comparison may be like a guy like Edge. Edge, who of course is one of the best of all time. I don't think that's disputable. But he's never really been, at the point where you're looking at him in the sense of like a Rock, Austin, Hogan, Cena. Edge is a solid hand. He was reliable, still is reliable, to the point where you could put him in any matchup, any segment of the show, and it was going to deliver. Of course, I look at Sheamus, and I think very much the same. A reliable hand, put him against anybody, any segment of the show, and it's going to deliver. It's going to be a banger. not considered to be one of the leading faces of his generation, but will go down as a Hall of Famer. And Sheamus, whether it was a heel or babyface, there was this level of investment in what he was doing. And I think it's time to give him his praise, to give him his love. I think Sheamus will go down as one of this generation's best wrestlers. The presentation, the match quality, certainly in the second half of his stint in the WWE. I mean, you look at the recent bangers that he's had against the likes of Drew McIntyre, Gunther, Braun Breaker, Ludwig Kaiser. It's like this guy has found a resurgence in his career. Sheamus will go down as one of the best to ever do it, and I'm super happy to see him get his praise. I'm hoping he wins that IC title at some point. I thought he was going to be the one to defeat Gunther and unseat him as the Intercontinental Championship. Of course, that would not be the case because another redhead in Sami Zayn would be the one to do so. But Sheamus, I think, is due for it. Will it be this year? Maybe. Hopefully. If not, we're going to have to keep waiting. I know in the predictions video I talked about how I was picking Sheamus to win the IC title here, and if he doesn't win it, it's going to be some time before we get to see him do it. He's already had multiple opportunities dating back to November. We're now about to enter February. I don't think we're going to see it anytime soon. I think if they wanted to, they could do it at WrestleMania. That'd be really cool for him to win the championship at the Show of Shows in Vegas, the fight capital of the world, WrestleMania 41, April 19th / April 20th, depending on the night that he's going to be fighting. But I do think Sheamus will be due for it. Absolutely. Absolutely. We also saw the contract signing between Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens, a storyline that's been going on for a little over a year now. I mean, you could really trace it all the way back to within the Bloodline saga, but WrestleMania 40, when Cody Rhodes wins the WWE Championship, defeats Roman Reigns, does the thing that Kevin Owens was trying to do so for years, but Kevin Owens unsuccessfully able to do that. And Cody Rhodes comes in, wins the championship, has this great moment with all the baby faces in attendance in the ring. Guys like LA Knight, John Cena, Jey Uso, Sammy, Seth, Kevin, a lot of names in there. And I thought it was just a great symbolic moment. But in that ring lies a lot of potential of future foes, of future matches. And Kevin Owens was one of those that came to fruition. We saw Bash in Berlin all the way back in September, where it was Cody Rhodes wanting to give a championship opportunity to Kevin Owens, who was still full-on babyface. I mean, he didn't want that championship opportunity. He didn't feel like he earned that opportunity. But Cody Rhodes saying, no, you've earned that. I want to give you that. It's the least I can do for what you've been able to help me do within this part of my career. Cody Rhodes having wrestled with a bum knee there, and Kevin Owens not fully capable of capitalizing on that injury. And that eventually would cost him the matchup. Kevin Owens, the one that we all knew from NXT, from Ring of Honor, in his early days in the WWE, the prize fighter, ruthless, did not care if you were friend or foe or 100% or 0%. He was going to take advantage of it and exploit every opportunity that he had to win championship gold. He hesitated with Cody Rhodes, opening the door for Cody to win the matchup and successfully move on past Kevin. But over time, Kevin Owens comes to the realization that, yeah, Cody Rhodes, you claim to be the guy. And the WWE is like force feeding you all these opportunities. And yet here you are basically insinuating him as a hypocrite because he helped take down the Bloodline. But who was the one to team up with Roman Reigns at Bad Blood? Kevin Owens has a little bit of justification here in his argument against Cody. But I love the presentation of this paranoid Kevin Owens who believes that there's always someone out to get him and that the machine is supporting Cody Rhodes. That has dived into the current status of this feud. Of course, the introduction of the pile driver has sidelined Randy Orton for quite some time, about November, October. We haven't seen him since then. He did the same thing to Cody Rhodes, who just recently got medically cleared for the Royal Rumble, and the stage is set now. Obviously, the Saturday night's main event that I was referring to back in December, we saw Kevin Owens deliver a pile driver to Cody Rhodes. He takes the WWE Championship, the very same Winged Eagle title that sits over my shoulder right here, parading around as the faux WWE champion, claiming to be the rightful champion. And now we have two champions, essentially, the Winged Eagle champion and the WWE champion that Cody Rhodes is in possession of. But the stage is set at a ladder match. The winner is the rightful WWE champion. You know I love a good ladder match. For those of you who are familiar with the podcast and the live streams, you know it's my favorite stipulation. I can never get tired of a good ladder match. And you have a feud the likes of Kevin Owens versus Cody Rhodes, and you add that as a stipulation, I'm all for it. I'm here for it, man. We're, of course, going to talk about our predictions for the Royal Rumble on a later video throughout this week, so I'm hoping you guys are looking forward to that as much as I am. But I mean, what I was looking forward to, the main event of Saturday night's main event. Main event, Jey Uso challenging Gunther for his World Heavyweight Championship. Jey Uso has been on quite the rise since his departure, since the Bloodline. I mean, the crowd ovations, the presentation, the music, the entrance. This guy screams star power. The potential that a Jey Uso has in this iteration of the WWE, second to none. I think it's a great opportunity here to elevate another star and provide great depth to an already deep roster. Gunther, who's one of the very best in the world today, having, again, a quality matchup against Jey Uso, a matchup that we have seen before for the Intercontinental title a little bit a year ago. Jey Uso got us going there for a moment. I will say, I thought there was a shot here that Jey Uso was going to win the championship. It would have been fantastic. It would have popped a rating, as if ratings even matter nowadays because everything's streaming. But Jey Uso had a couple of scares there, for Gunther at least, where we thought he was going to be the new champion. Would not be the case. Gunther counters the spear, turns it into a couple of power bombs, pins main event Jey 1, 2, 3. Let's call it a night. Jey Uso unsuccessful in winning that world championship. And Gunther continues his reign. Heading into WrestleMania, I do think that whoever wins the Rumble could be choosing Gunther as their champion of choice. But what I really want to talk about here is Jey Uso. Like we gave praise to Sheamus, Jey Uso's rise is something to make note of. He was known as one half of one of the best tag teams of all time, the Usos, alongside his brother Jimmy. And upon breaking away from the Bloodline, some people called into question whether or not this was the right call. You have one of the most decorated tag teams, no more. Would they be able to survive without one another, having one on SmackDown, having the other on Raw? But Jey Uso, because of the wave of momentum, the fan support, the investment that has been developed for Jey over the course of the last several years, it made sense. It was a natural fit. You have a great theme song and a great entrance to mix, and it's a recipe for stardom. Jey Uso has become one of the more likable characters on WWE TV. And in terms of merchandise, I mean, this guy has one of the best merchandise in the game today. I think he will be a future world champion. Is it his time right now? Apparently not. But he, along with a guy like Sami Zayn, are destined to be world champions. These guys and the support from the babyface crowd, how can you not? They're going to pull the trigger. It's just a matter of when. To see Jey Uso come out to the ring with the audience, with a championship in hand, we saw a little bit of a hint with the Intercontinental Championship. And if one thing is to believe, Triple H is a student of the game. Loves the history of the business. The Intercontinental title was seen as a stepping stone to the main event scene, to the world title. Look at what it's done for Gunther. 666 days as IC champion, and immediately went into the main title and won the world championship. I think we would see something similar with a guy like Jey Uso. Will he defeat Gunther? I think he's a good candidate. He's not the one I would choose, though. More on that in the Royal Rumble prediction video. But Jey Uso as a future world champion, keep an eye on that. The Bloodline itself has had great champions in the likes of Roman Reigns, The Rock, Yokozuna, just to name a few. I think Jey Uso is destined to be next on that list. And to have him as the world champion, maybe Sami as the WWE champion, or vice versa, and have a moment of those two sharing in the ring, reminiscent of a guy like Benoit and Guerrero at the end of WrestleMania 20 two guys who are synonymous with one another due to their partnership in the Bloodline. I think it would make for a great moment, a special moment for not only Sami and Jey, but for the fans as well. I do think it's going to happen. It's always just a matter of when. Hey, sorry to interrupt, but if you're anything like me and can't get enough wrestling content, then you should consider becoming a member here on YouTube. You'll receive access to exclusive content like unique videos, live streams, shorts, and a more behind-the-scenes look of the channel itself. On top of that, once you become a member here on YouTube, you will receive priority first replies in the comments, as well as special shoutouts in future uploads. And speaking of future uploads, you'll also be able to get to decide what will be the future topics in these future videos. You can join the Jey area and become a member here by clicking on the link in the description, as well as in the link under the About Me section. This is your big opportunity to see the Jey area like no one else. We can't thank you enough for the continued support and the continued growth in the channel, so we don't want you to miss out on this exclusive offer. Now, let's get back to the video. Of course, tonight's episode of Monday Night Raw on Netflix, we're going to have some appearances by some big stars here. You know, obviously we're going to see the developments in CM Punk in the Royal Rumble. We're going to see what's next for Roman Reigns, who's been rumored to appear on this episode of Monday Night Raw following his big victory against the former so-called tribal chief in Solo Sikoa. But that's for an episode of Monday Night Raw. Obviously, stay tuned for the live stream following Monday nights. If you're new to the channel, know that we have a live stream on Sundays, Mondays, and Thursdays. In fact, we already have the poll up for Thursday's live stream. You can see those in the community tab. Make sure you place your votes. That way you can determine what will be the topic of discussion for Thursday's live stream. Also, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel for more content like the podcast, like the live streams, like the shorts that we upload on occasion, and become a member of the Jey area. And speaking of becoming a member of the Jey area, also consider becoming a member of the Main Event Mafia. We're going to get exclusive content that not everybody else has access to. We've already had numbers growing within the last month or so, and we're trying to work towards something that would be a more exclusive live stream experience for those who are dedicated members to the Main Event Mafia. And as we bring this episode to a close, I want to thank you guys, of course, for the constant support, the constant love that you guys have shown our way here at the Jey Area Wrestling Podcast. Always keep an eye out for the notifications, for the updates, for the podcast, for the live streams. We're constantly evolving and constantly growing. But it's in large part thanks to you, the viewer. So we appreciate that very much. If you enjoyed this episode of the podcast, a little short recap of Saturday night's main event, please consider giving the video a thumbs up. Comment down below what were some of your favorite moments of Saturday night's main event, and what are you looking forward to most as we enter the WrestleMania season. Subscribe to the channel, join the members of the Main Event Mafia. Of course, my name's Jose Ramos Jr. Thank you again for joining us today on this episode of the Jey Area Wrestling Podcast, and we'll see you next time.